Hey everyone, I wanted to give you something that you could listen to when you're in the car or at night or whatever, and just put a set of headphones on and just take a listen to what we're kind of expressing to you guys a little bit. And I want to talk about how limiting beliefs actually get built into our mind, and a lot of it starts with exaggeration. Now we all exaggerate sometimes, and we spice up a story to our friends, or making fun of something that happened, or sometimes we even steal somebody else's story and make it our own. But we really need to be careful. I often find that people who are the most stressed in life also have a strong tendency to exaggerate every little bad thing that happens to them. They can't handle something without treating it like it's the end of the world. So look, we all have stress and frustrations like every day, but when we exaggerate these bad experiences, we often add unnecessary stress and drama to them that doesn't have to be there. We can even play act a little when telling a joke or a story, pretending to be angry or mean, and we leave a little bit of that stress left over in our brain. You may think to yourself, I'm just kidding and I'm just joking around. But if you say these things repeatedly, they tend to stick. We have social media, or the regular media for that matter, and there's this instant outrage, or triggering is a hot word right now. And it's all exaggeration. And it seems to be all too common response to our daily lives. People seem to love being turned into the Incredible Hulk, like at a moment's notice. So maybe even because they're addicted to their own problems or drama. Did you ever think about that? How we can get dragged into it? I call it the Yelp mentality. Yelp, that app where you could find a great restaurant or whatever, and then you see people leave these bad reviews, and it's like they want to destroy a business. Like, we get a bad taco at a restaurant. It's not enough that we get our meal for free or a coupon for another meal. We want to see that restaurant out of business. I mean, who are these people, and what have we become as a society that a bad taco justifies this guy being put out of business? So we need to be more careful about the types of exaggerations in our thoughts and speech and what we expect of people. So overestimating is a big one. How many times something happens to us and it seems to be like that's the biggest thing that's happening. For example, many times something bad will happen to somebody, like maybe they spill their coffee or drop their ice cream cone, or their Amazon item is on back order. So what do most people say? They'll say like, oh my God, this always happens to me. I can't take it, right? Well, often that's really just an exaggeration. Some people seem to only remember the times that bad happened to them, but they forget all the times that something bad didn't happen to them. It's like people who gamble. They tell these great gambling stories or fish stories, like I caught the biggest fish, or, I won 10 grand at the casino, and they mostly tell the stories that they win, but yet casinos are making all the money, right? So that kind of thinking is distorted. And who distorts that thinking? It's us. We actually do it to ourselves. So when you find yourself thinking like this, use some sort of pattern interrupter. I literally have, if you hear that, it's a rubber band I can keep on my wrist, and I'll snap it when I see this bad mindset coming in. I used to beep my horn until people would look at me like, what are you beeping at? And I was just doing it to interrupt that pattern. And you need to actively look into your past at events or situations that will prove you wrong, that this isn't the worst thing. I mean, come on, is it really these things always happen to you? I mean, can you think of like one time that things didn't turn out as bad as you thought, or two times? How about it's most of the time? So all you need is one example to prove that your exaggeration is a misguided conclusion, or it's just plain wrong. So we overestimate the importance of something that happens to us. That's another thing we do. Like when we're upset, it could be really easy to feel like when something goes wrong, that one bad thing is going to be the change the course of our lives forever. Like this is it. Like how many people are like, oh my God, it's over. Woe is me. Or it's really like, is it really the end of the world? How many times it's over somebody else's actions or inaction that we perceive as the cost of our demise? That's the victim mentality. Oh my God, look what they did to me. So what seems to be a really big deal at the time is often a lot less significant when we look back on the days, weeks, or months, or even years later. Or worse yet, we strive to keep that alive due to some limiting belief. Now, I'm not going to get into limiting beliefs and how to start getting rid of them on this podcast, but this is where they come from. So the limiting beliefs are a whole nother issue on getting rid of them. I just want to try to find and prevent new ones from forming. So if you say something like, this is the worst day ever, or I'm ruined, or this will be the death of me, or this is going to hurt my business irreparably, what you're saying is, I'm a complete loser who fails at everything. Now, I know you don't mean that, but that's what you're telling your subconscious when you do things like this is the worst day ever, when it's really not. So often the exaggerations don't ever reflect any truth, but yet your subconscious doesn't know that. So when you make things out to be worse than they really are, it makes the experience that much more stressful and painful, and it drags you down. But think about others around you, those of you in network marketing. What's that doing to your downlines? So those things stay in your voice. You may not say it, but if it's in your belief system, they will hear it without you even saying it. But you're leaving fragments in your mind every single time, and you're conditioning yourself negatively. We all know the story of Pavlov's dogs, right? Where he would feed them at a certain time with a certain bell ring, and then when he was started, after a certain period of time, the bell would ring and the dogs would literally salivate because they anticipate what's coming on. That's how your mind works. Be conscious of it. Protect it. For example, if you're telling someone about something bad that happened to you earlier and you exaggerate it to make it seem worse, you're not only reliving that stressful experience, but you're also intensifying your memory of it. Next thing you know, you tell the same story to 2 or 3 people or 5 or 6 times, and that tiny stress that you could have just let go of the moment now is transformed into something bigger and stronger than it ever needed to be. Now, don't get me wrong. Bad things happen to people all the time, but we need to learn to let go of the small stuff and not create a tragedy out of every single story. These types of exaggerations can become unhealthy, especially if we're doing it for effect or sympathy. Yeah, people do that. So jumping to conclusions is what happens when we overestimate our knowledge about a situation and make a snap judgment. Right? We jump to conclusions. We often think we know a lot more about something than we really do because our brain tries to put pieces together that are not really there. This illusion of knowledge can end up giving us a wrong or misguided impression of a situation because we really don't know all the relevant facts. Overreactive thinking can lead to a lot of unnecessary drama and stress. It leads us to not only misreading situations, but misreading people and misreading their intentions. So we sometimes then act in a way that only makes things worse, or we blame people for something that they never really did, and now we've created this really stressful situation between 2 people, and it can actually damage relationships, especially business relationships. So be careful when you find yourself making exaggerations like, I'm 100% sure of that, or as a matter of fact, because there really isn't a fact. And there's no way that happened. I don't know. That never happened to him. I think he's lying. So when the truth is, you usually don't know for sure what's true. We tend to fall into a victim mentality by default when we do that, and that's a really slippery slope, especially for developing limiting beliefs. So just remember that embellishing a story can seem like fun or an ego boost, but it can lead to an ingrained thought process that will affect your point of view on many things to come. So the moral of the story is, if you're going to exaggerate things, try to do so on a positive note that bolsters and lifts everybody up. All right, hope you guys learned something from this. And remember, the best way to learn is to teach, so start sharing some of this info.